The Monitor vs. Merrimac. General information. The battle name is Monitor vs. Merrimac, or the Battle of the Hampton Roads. It occurred on March 9, 1862. The location was the Hampton Roads, Virginia, near the mouth of the James River. Military leadership. First, we're going to start with John L. Worden. He began in the U.S. Navy on January 10, 1834, with experience serving during the Mexican-American War. When the Civil War broke out, he was sent with secret dispatches to a ship in Florida. He was captured by Confederates when he attempted to return to the North and had to be exchanged. Upon his return, he received orders to command the Union's ironclad ship, the Monitor. He engaged in naval warfare with the Confederates' ironclad ship known as the CSS Virginia or the Merrimac. This was the first time iron warships had battled in history. After the war, he remained in the Navy till 1886.
Commodore Franklin Buchanan. He began his naval career in 1815 after joining the United States Navy. He quickly rose ranks and eventually became the first superintendent of the United States Naval Academy and had served during the Mexican-American War. Soon after the outbreak of the Civil War, he quickly changed sides and joined the Confederacy. He thus became the captain of the USS Merrimac, or now known as the CSS Virginia, and later he was able to become the captain of the CSS Tennessee during the Battle of Mobile Bay. During this battle, he was wounded and taken prisoner, and was not released until February of 1865, and spent the rest of the Civil War on leave.
Summary of the battle. In order for the North to have a shot at defeating the South during the Civil War, they would have to follow a strategy. This plan was the Anaconda Plan, which would involve establishing a blockade on southern ports in order to cut them off from receiving outside resources. A threat was posed to the North's blockade strategy when a former Union ship, the Merrimac, had been rebuilt as an ironclad ship by the Confederates. It had the potential to sink the Union's warships. As a result, the Union's Navy used an ironclad ship of their own, the Monitor. The duel lasted at least 4 hours and ended in a draw. However, the Monitor stopped the Merrimac from posing a serious threat to the U.S. naval blockade.
Movement during the battle. The Monitor itself had entered the battle at the end of the first day from the Chesapeake Bay. The Merrimac had been present since the beginning of the conflict. After the Merrimac had destroyed 2 Union ships, they decided to move and destroy a 3rd Union ship. Unfortunately, they were unable to and decided to wait the night out so they could begin in the morning. As soon as it became morning, they encountered the Monitor and begun the historical encounter between the 2 ironclad ships. Unfortunately, the Merrimac had to retire due to being unable to inflict any serious damage upon the Monitor. The major strategic moves and turning points of the battle. The 2 ships were revolutionary. They were the first of their kind and are known as ironclad ships. Ironclad ships are wooden ships which were stripped of their wooden reinforcements and replaced with iron reinforcements. What the USS Merrimac, or now known as the CSS Virginia, lacked was a revolutionary revolving turret which the USS Monitor included. This revolving turret allowed the USS Monitor to inflict damage upon the CSS Virginia easily. The battle ended in the retreat of the CSS Virginia due to their inability to inflict any major damage upon the USS Monitor. The strategy of the battle for both sides was primarily reliant on the strength of both these brand new ironclad ships. The outcome of the battle. The results of the battle were inconclusive. Of the 1,588 troops engaged in the conflict, there were an estimated 393 total casualties from both sides. Outstandingly, a large portion of the casualties were on the side of the Union. 369 of these casualties were Union-based, 261 of these troops were killed, and 108 were wounded. On the Confederate side, there were only 24 casualties. 7 of the 24 were killed and the rest were injured.
Impacts of the battle. The 4-hour-long duel ended in a draw, but it proved to be crucial to carry out the southern port blockades and contributed to the Anaconda Plan. This duel also contributed to the revolutionization of naval warfare. Now we'll be discussing the pictures. On the left-hand side, we're able to see the Monitor versus the Merrimac. This is a painting that illustrates them during their 4-hour-long duel. We're able to see the impact that they had. On the right side, we're given an image of the revolving turret. This could be found on the Monitor. It was lacking on the Merrimac, which could be considered as a disadvantage to them. We are also able to see a comparison of both the ironclad ships. The Monitor was pictured as very large, and the Merrimac was relatively small compared to the Monitor. This could also be considered a disadvantage because one obviously was a lot more powerful than the other. Lastly, we see the Merrimac sinking the USS Cumberland. This is important to note because it demonstrates how powerful the ironclad ships were, because although the USS Cumberland was a Union warship, it was not an ironclad ship and it was easily sunk.